Hello and welcome again to our online design hub. My name is John Ennis, curator producer at Journeys in Design. So we're continuing our Chasing Rainbows program today with the first of a series where we're going to explore rainbow cultures. It's a chance to reach out from Scotland to countries and cultures elsewhere, letting rainbow and the design of using rainbow initiatives guide our conversation. Today, to rainbows in folklore, and I'm delighted to be joined over a cup of tea, Mary Mullin. Hello, Mary.
Hello, John.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's a beautiful May morning here in Poole in Dorset with a bright blue sky.
Oh, lovely. I'm in Edinburgh. You're in Poole. I guess you may have views of the sea.
Oh, I don't actually have a view of the sea, but I can hear the waves from the house, and I only have a short walk.
Oh, wonderful. And
the whole of Poole Bay is there in front of me.
Fantastic. I visited once and hope to again when the time allows. But just thinking of sea reminds me that we're from Ireland, where you're never more than 50 miles from the sea. Also
Indeed.
Yep. Also seems appropriate that we're meeting over a cup of tea. It's our drink of the non-variety anyway. We're talking about folklore, and it does strike me that conversation has a special place in our. We're both Grays. I'm in Scotland for more than 30 years, and there's a quote. I think it may be a Gaelic quote that was used by Scotland's first minister, Jure, and it's inscribed in the Parliament, "Say little, but..." And that always struck me as an antithesis of Irishness.
Well, indeed, there were several versions of that. Seamus Heaney, the great poet, was credited with saying, "Whatever you say, say nothing." But in fact, it was his mother used to say it. And my father used to say to us as children, "Keep your mouth shut, it's only a parish," because words spread very quickly.
Keep your mouth shut, it's only a parish. Ireland's only a parish. That's a lovely phrase for all of us to remember.
Well, in those days, everybody knew everyone.
Yes, it's fact. And it doesn't change too much, I don't think, now in some worlds either. But you're quoting your Irish father. I won't quote my Irish father other than to say there was always a cup of tea ready, and often with a cake or a biscuit, whatever, to go with it. And the house was open.
Oh, the door was always open and the kettle on. And it was a poor day when somebody didn't call to share a cup of tea or a chat. Indeed
it was, and is, I think, and looking forward to those days returning. Now, books are starting to have a theme in our Chasing Rainbows program, and I've got two in my hand. I'm not sure. Yes, Irish, the beautifully illustrated book, bought for me many years ago, edited by Henry Glassy, and another one, City of a Thousand Worlds, actually written by another emigre from Ireland to Edinburgh. The subtitle is In Festivals, and it was written by Owen Dudley Edwards, who's a wonderful member of the university and literative a great man of letter and words himself. See this until after you're telephoning in from Poole, an image of you during your visit to Scotland in January, and I'm beside you technologically using a green screen. Where in the backdrop is the National Museum of Scotland, and I do want to pause on the back of Owen Dudley Edwards' book, Edinburgh Festival, and note at the time that, of course, the national venues and the Edinburgh Festival are on pause, and that's sad for us in Scotland, but I know that
it's sad for the world, John.
It's sad for the world, but I do want to note that both the national institutions and the Edinburgh festivals are cooking up some wonderful alternative online cultural initiatives for us to enjoy. So I'm looking forward to seeing those. So you mentioned Shane Heaney. My favourite contemporary Irish writer is Colm Tóibín, and he's our Edinburgh Book Festival favourite. And I'm just wondering, why words, or why have words become so important to the Irish?
Well, I'm not sure that I have the definitive answer on it, but my own take on it is that it goes back to when the statutes of Kilkenny were imposed in the 1300s. The Irish, as you know, are damned with long memories. But
in those... Mary, I didn't know the statute of Kilkenny until, but yes, there we go.
But then, by the statutes of Kilkenny, the Irish mode of dress, the Irish hairstyle, the Irish way of riding a horse, every visual expression that indicated that you were Irish was banned.
Oh.
So, yeah, so the Irish resorted to words, and this went back into...
You say that? When did that? When was that?
In the 1300s.
1300s, a very long time.
Oh, absolutely. It was then when the Norman invasion, and people were the invaders, if you like, were inclined to become more Irish than the Irish themselves, and these laws were introduced to so that their culture wouldn't be just merged with this wild Irish culture. So,
or the Irish were essentially the visual, as you were going to say, was
yeah. So their whole visual identity was suppressed. They resorted to words, and the bardic tradition came out. So the whole culture and the history was contained in words. The bardic tradition after the 1600s went into the local communities, and it particularly was preserved right up to the 20th century in rural Ireland in the Shanachie. The Shanachie was the storyteller.
Okay.
And the storyteller was a revered person in the community, and who used to visit houses and come together to tell the stories going way back, the legends and the traditions and the stories.
You're reminding
so that's how, and then I think that became the way of the turn of phrase in Ireland. Then was when people began to write in the English language, they had the richness of the Irish language, and they put that into the in their own. I mean, I think that's still there today with Irish writers. There's so many young, new Irish writers coming on the market.
And actually the same is true in Scotland, I think.
Absolutely.
I had the privilege of sitting for a fireside chat at the Highland Folk Museum in 2018 and 2019 again with our Linen Stories tour, and a wonderful troupe, the Walkers. And I'd like to give credit to them after our conversation with a bit of a link. But yes, the Gaelic language is a rich one in Scotland, of course, and I'm working more in Fife at the moment with some of the programs. And until a couple of hundred years ago, the first language of many people in Fife was actually Gaelic as well. So yes, I love, of
course,
sing.
And it's there in the place names, in the in your signpost, everywhere. It's still there. The Gaelic language is still there.
It's true. It's true. So back to storytelling. You mentioned rural Ireland. My father's from Cavan. My mother's from Belfast. And I remember driving around Ireland as kids on a holiday, big family, all lumped into the car. And in the longer stretches when we were getting bored, my father would tell us stories of an Irish origin. I remember Finn McCool and that. There's wonderful, rich stories that had us wrapped as children. I guess storytelling and a welcome, a cup of tea, would be typical. And that, I'm guessing that your home may have welcomed folk in with a cup of tea as well, perhaps a favorite cake or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. I saw a photograph the other day of Malahide, where I grew up, by the sea, and it was a friend's home, and I could almost smell the apple tart because the wonderful lady of that house seemed always, whenever one crossed the door, just to be taking an apple tart out of the oven and a cup of tea. And certainly our house was the same. The apple tarts weren't as good, but there was always a cup of tea.
Apple tart. I mean, Armagh is a great county for. There are other stories of us going orchard.
Well, it's the orchard of Ireland, isn't it?
And I better not talk too much about the orchard raiding with my father's account. But anyway, yes, back to folklore and rainbows in Ireland. Of course, that has great significance. I'm thinking of the lore around a pot of gold.
Ah, yes. Well, the rainbow signal, and as children, those storytelling was whenever we saw a rainbow, you must look out for the crock of gold, because the crock of gold was buried where the rainbow ended. And of course, I mean, it was we were always looking towards that. We were going to find richness beyond all. But in a way, I think what that gave us was optimism, and that there was something worth looking towards or going forward towards. There was always something better to have out there. Yes. But I think the Irish wrote more about rain than rainbows, and that's not particularly surprising.
The green country, the Emerald Isle, for reasons of the rain.
Yeah, but in the Irish language, a rainbow is called boga bow, boshti, boga boshti, which boga means bow and boshti is rain. So it is the rain is the emphasis there. But that association with arrows and bows goes into other cultures and folklore. The Arabs believed that the rainbow was a divine bow for firing arrows. And I think, that's a symbol of hope and optimism as well. But
yes,
I love
to fight off danger.
All danger, and that couldn't be more appropriate in the use of the rainbow today to encourage and to thank all the wonderful frontline people that are working to fight this pandemic. The rainbow is a symbol of that. So I don't know how many people know that.
No, there we are. Irish culture, Arab culture.
Yeah. And the one I love, am I allowed to talk about the Aboriginal one, John?
Right.
The Aborigines believed that the rainbow had great significance because it signified humanity. And their belief is that the rainbow causes energy, and importantly, that it's the breath that gives people life. Now, when so many people are trying now to give breath back to people in all these respiratory diseases, this is so important and so symbolic.
So the culture rainbow, wow, that's so wonderful. Mary, do you know, I'm missing two things. I'm missing a cup of tea with friends, breaking bread with friends, and I'm missing a hug. But I want to thank you today because I feel like I've had a lovely big hug with this conversation. You've given words to notions of hope and energy and capacity to fight off danger. I really appreciate your time today. I think our time is almost up, and thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you, John, for all you're doing to bring people together from all over the world, and one day we will have that cup of tea together.
I'm going to hold you to it. An apple tart.
And apple tart, okay. I promise.
Thanks, Mary.
Bless you, John. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.